On a Friday, we are live in LA. It's The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. We're on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Cold and flu season, try Vicks nasal spray. A couple of squirts up there work 12 hours when congestion strikes. Joy Taylor is joining me. Big, lively show today, full of arguments, going crazy. She grew up in a yell scream family where they had to apologize to people publicly that didn't understand they yelled and screamed. I grew up in a very English family where there was no emotion, so I miss a little yelling and screaming, and that's why I married an artist, and there's a yelling and screaming, and you got to get comfortable with it. So Tom Izzo yesterday is yelling and screaming at a player. People don't like it. Everybody's freaking out. And I'm like, I don't know. It seemed like they love each other. That's what people that love each other do. They yell and scream. When I was a kid growing up, if you got into an argument with a guy, that's when you knew he was your guy. But people didn't like that thing yesterday with Tom Izzo. So that's getting all sorts of play today. And it's fun. I don't know. Oh, by the way, we're on Sirius XM Channel 83. Also on Fridays. One of my favorite things to end our show, last 15 minutes, Jason McIntyre comes on. I love that. It's called Tomorrow's Headlines Today. He is the biggest college basketball fan I personally know. I don't know anybody that's a bigger, I mean, he'll watch every game. Last night I tried to call him and talk, and it was ridiculous. He couldn't get a word in. He's just watching Wofford play J.C. Penney's. I mean, it was just, it was ridiculous. I didn't even know what he was watching. He was watching like some Division III basketball game. TJ Hushmanzada joins us, and again, Jason McIntyre. Well, Doc and LeBron. The stories broke this week about Doc and LeBron. Would Doc come over from the Clippers, coach the Lakers? Doc said it's not going to happen. I'm going to stay there. It seems like a logical pairing, but some things that sound great don't actually work. You would think if you said, these two people, they're really professionally interested. They're both, they're shooting for the stars. They're career-driven. They're a power couple. You know what gets divorced a lot in Los Angeles? Power couples. You're workaholics. You work 80 hours a week, each of you. You're two ships passing in the night. It sounds great on paper. She's an attorney. He's a surgeon. They're stars. They never see each other and disconnect. Generally, somebody, the brilliant attorney, the great doctor, needs somebody that provides something they can't. I, myself, tend to be a little intense. My wife is more social. The yin, the yang, it works. It's perfect, right? Doc and LeBron James sounds good on paper. Doc has won a title. He's smart. LeBron's won several. He's smart. They're both kind of legends in their little genre, the player, the coach. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. LeBron's too rich, too powerful, and too accomplished. He doesn't need anything in that relationship. Well, Colin, Doc worked with Kevin Garnett, he worked with Paul Pierce, he worked with Chris Paul, he worked with Blake Griffin, he worked with Ray Allen. They didn't have titles. They needed Doc to get a ring. LeBron's got his. Michael at the end had his. Kobe at the end had his. Kobe was hard to deal with at the end. LeBron, Kobe, MJ, it wasn't an even relationship. They didn't need. They had everything. And relationships work when both people need something from it beyond just love. You need to be more social. She provides it. She wants more stability in her life. Maybe he provides it. This is what happens to superstars who have multiple titles or titles late in their career. Brett Favre, Big Ben, Kobe. They become really hard to coach. Big Ben's now hard to coach. He's got his money. He's got his legacy. He's got his Super Bowls, got his rings, got his fame. What does he need? In fact, I would say it's often very hard to coach even superstars who are iconic without titles. Dan Marino and Charles Barkley. They didn't have the rings, but they had the money, and they had the fame, and they had the looks and the personality. They couldn't go anywhere in public. They didn't have the rings. But ask Jimmy Johnson. Dan Marino was no day at the beach late in his career. And I like Charles Barkley. Never the easiest guy to coach late. The aging champion superstar, wealth, titles, rings, what does he need from the relationship? He's got it all. He had a poster on his wall as a kid, did LeBron. He's often surpassed all of those posters. Some would even say Michael Jordan. This sounds great on paper. right? It sounds great. But I don't even think Doc needs LeBron. I think Doc wouldn't fit because Doc's got his money, and Doc's got his ring, and Doc's got his fame. Doc's a big deal in Los Angeles. He golfs and dines with stars. What does he need from LeBron? Neither of these guys needs the other to validate in any way each other. It's hard enough when only one needs the other. When neither needs the other, that's why the Luke Walton LeBron is seen as a disaster, but it actually has some value. I mean, Luke could gain a lot from making it work. An extension, help his legacy. But too often, stuff that sounds good on paper is really not good on paper. And whenever I see the big divorces in Los Angeles, it's so often the power couple. The ones that work. Go look up Paul Newman, Tom Hanks. Somebody takes a little more of a professional front seat. Somebody maybe takes more of the family, the social, the supportive side seat, and it works. Sometimes the woman's in control, sometimes the dude. But Doc and LeBron, to me, is a paper relationship that would be a disaster. You know, it is funny in this NBA season. As we kind of move down, there's 9 or 10 games left in the regular season. The Eastern Conference is kind of decided. You kind of have a feeling, you know, Toronto, Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, like they feel like really formidable teams. I'll take Boston. In the West, you got the Golden State, and then you got a bunch of stuff. Depending on who has home court, it's shifting every day. You know, so I really think Golden State's going to win it, and Durant's probably going to be the MVP in the finals. I've never bought that he's going to leave. He probably will, and I'll be wrong. But Rob Parker said something earlier today on the show about he thinks he's going to go to New York, and here's what Rob said.
There's also a part of him wanting to totally validate his career.
Oh,
and
God.
Winning, yes, you could say you could poo-poo it, Colin. He's going to have to go somewhere, win something with somebody else for people to say, because they'll always look at him and say he joined a record-setting team, right? The Warriors that already had won a championship without him.
I don't buy this. And if he does move, it's insecurity. Everybody's got an inner scoreboard and an outer scoreboard. I had this conversation with my daughter the other day. I said the inner scoreboard is your soul and your truth. What makes you cry, what makes you laugh, what makes you think. I said, worry about that. Outer scoreboard is what people think of you, what people say on social media. It has no redeeming value. In fact, it can be very negative. I said, your parents love you love you, your family loves you, you have support, you're smart, you're thoughtful, you're empathetic, you're curious, you're all the things a person should be. That's what matters. When I hear that, well, Kevin's going to validate, timeout. To who? Kevin Durant needs to validate to who anything. Does Kevin Durant, and we know he has rabbit ears, does he not think he's worth it and great? Kevin Durant moving is validating one thing I don't like. He cares about what people think. No reasonable person doesn't think Kevin Durant is the second best player in the NBA, and frankly, today, maybe the best. I've always said this about Durant. He'll never be seen holistically all-time better than LeBron. But I've always felt there'll be a time in his career, and it'll last 3 or 4 years, when he's absolutely better than LeBron on the floor. That time is now. Leaving Golden State would only prove what Kevin Durant's always trying to deny, that he cares what other people think. Tell my kids all the time, inner scoreboard, outer scoreboard. Do you love you? Do you believe in you? Do you think you matter? Do you think you have value? Don't worry about what people think. Kevin Durant has nothing to prove to anybody, unless maybe himself, insecurity. He's the greatest basketball player in the world probably today. You could argue LeBron or Giannis. And he's still got, like, let's be honest, like 3-4 peak years left, barring health. Like, who would he be moving to New York to prove? To who? His mom? No, she thinks he's the best basketball player. Himself? I think he thinks he's the best basketball player. When you start doing things to validate it to other people, it's a really shallow, unhealthy place to be. Kevin Durant doesn't need to prove to anybody anything. He's a remarkable player, appears to be a fairly remarkable person. a remarkable friend. This idea that anybody believes that Kevin Durant has to go somewhere and find something and that will then validate, don't buy it at all. I would think less of Kevin Durant. I would think that's sad. You felt you had to go to New York to prove something. I don't know. I've watched him for a decade. He's the second best basketball player in the world for most of the last 10 years. I think he's better than Giannis. I think he's better than Harden. I think he's better than Chris Paul. I think he's better than everybody except LeBron. And right now, actually, today, for the first time, he's probably better on most nights than LeBron. Got nothing to prove. TJ Hushmanzada, Jason McIntyre, great 40 minutes left on the show. Has your internal sleep clock, we all have one of those, adjusted to the time change? I hope, traveling around,